Hey, Miss Christina.
Hey.
I am excited to have you here with us today. So, as you know, one of the things that we love to do as a church is just add value to our community in a bunch of different ways. And right now, there's just a significant amount of parents with kids of all ages in school, or technically a lot of them out of school right now. And with the whole coronavirus, the pandemic, public education has really become a forefront of people's minds, and we thought it would be really cool to spend a few minutes just investing in that conversation. And I personally thought that there wouldn't be hardly anybody else more qualified to do this. If you don't know Christina, her name is Christina Sutton. She has been heavily invested in public education in our community for years now, and technically this year she is actually running for school board.
I am for Lincoln County.
Lincoln County School Board, District 3.
District 3. Yep, but I'll be on everybody's ballots.
Yep. So,
on the back. Turn the ballot over.
Yep. So the thing I love about this, before we get into the conversation, is there's a lot of people that love to sit back and run their mouth, on social media or just at dinner and conversations. And there's very rarely few people who don't run their mouth, but actually just get involved and invest their time, effort, energy, resources. And I love hearing from the people who are actually involved and making sacrifices and stuff. So that's why I value whatever it is that you're going to say, because you're in the know. And so our heart today is just to maybe ask a few questions, that our parents, in our church and in our community are asking and wanting answers to. And I thought that's what we do today.
Yay. I'm honored to be here.
Awesome deal. So I'm just going to get started, ask you a question,
Okay.
and you just start sharing your heart and
All
your
right.
experience, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
All right, so the one question that I've heard from a ton of people that I have personally, because I've got, 3 kids up
Yes.
and coming, and is one thing that the coronavirus or this pandemic has kind of exposed is that if something like this, obviously it's happened now, it is happening, and if something happens again or this intensifies or gets worse, it seems that the go-to plan was to remove kids from school in some form or fashion, whether that meant online school or Zoom school, or going to class 1 day a week to 3 days a week, or a series of things like that really pulled it out. And so the question would be, is pulling kids out with public education basically converting to an online only thought process, is that a viable, effective strategy? Is that now, and will it be in the future? And if this ever happens again, is that what we can expect?
So that is a really heavy question. I think right now it's on the forefront of every parent's mind. I, like you, have 2 kids. I have an 8th grader and a 10th grader, and they're at North Lincoln. So we had one of each. So we had Wyatt, who he needed to be in a school building, like right off the bat. And so he went back to the 2 days a week. And then Maddie, for some health reasons, she had to stay home. And so we got to experience both. I think that our teachers are phenomenal. I mean, right off the bat, I just want to say kudos to our staff and to the administrators that have stepped up and for no more money. Nobody's making any more money. And they've been asked to do so much more. Especially high school level, you have teachers that went from teaching, their regular 3 classes plus a planning period to now they have like 9 classes. I mean, it's crazy. So I think that this isn't some of the online learning, it's not going away. And our county is actually trying to prepare themselves by integrating it into learning long term. There's still going to be some online days that are built into the schedule. That way, if this happens again, it's not pandemonium. But I will say our school system handled this remarkably well.
That's awesome.
Nobody was running around with their hair on fire. I mean, there was great thought given to this issue. And our county commissioner stepped up and they purchased Chromebooks for the county. So I think that was phenomenal. There was so much thought put into place. I think that our kids have continued to learn, but Anybody that's in education will tell you that there's no substitute for a child being in the classroom. And the numbers are showing that. This past week, the school board met trying to decide whether to send K through 5th graders back to the school building after the governor had said, they could go to Plan A if that's what the county deemed appropriate. So moving forward, at this point, K through 5th grade, later in October, they are going to be able to go back to school 5 days a week. I brought some numbers that Miss Huss, that she pointed out during the meeting whenever they were trying to decide and they were presenting to the school board.
And for those of us who don't know, who is Miss Huss?
So Miss Huss is over the elementary education.
Okay.
And so her actual title is Director of Elementary Education.
Awesome. Okay.
Yep. She's super sweet, and she is a huge advocate for our kids in our school system. So what she brought to the table was that in reading, our K through 5th grade, that 39% are on grade, that 27% are a grade behind at this point, and 24% are 2 grades or more behind.
Wow.
And then in math, 3rd through 5th grade, they have 30% are on grade, 40% are 1 grade behind, and 30% are 2 grades or more behind.
Wow.
Soak that in.
So that's not good.
That's terrible.
That's terrible.
And you think about it, at this point, like for first graders that don't come back to the building until after Christmas, they will have been out of school longer than they will have actually been in a school building.
Wow.
Just since March. And so there's some kindergartners, they've never been to school, but they have to do, their assignments, and they're having to do the online work. And it's taxing.
Yeah.
I have a friend who, has a elementary child, and I was in her home one day when she was trying to do school with her kids, and just watching her, it was a struggle. I think we all want what's best for our kids, and we want them to succeed. I know for me that is, one of my biggest goals in running for school board is that I want every child in Lincoln County to leave us with the best possible chance at a future that they can have, no matter what they choose, whether it's a trade or if they want to go into higher education or the military, that they're set up for success. Technology is necessary, and online learning is necessary, but nothing takes the place of classroom learning. Yeah. And the social aspect of it. Could you imagine?
So that social aspect of it is something that's been on my mind as much or more than anything else. There's already one of the things, and I don't ever want to fight reality. I want to try to work within what's best. There's things that I don't necessarily like or wish were different, but they are what they are, and so you can complain about it or you can work within it. And I think technology brings a lot of those situations where we wish kids weren't so heavily addicted to cell phones, and we wish kids weren't so heavily addicted to social media in a lot of ways, but they are, so we can use that to our advantage in a lot of ways and do good with it. That said, the negative side of that is already with people being in school, their social, this generation coming up, their social structure is so heavily built on social media and through cell phones that they struggle to maintain real relationships statistically as it is. Now, if you remove what little consistent social atmosphere they have, which would be in the classroom and in school, if you move that away, now all they have is online technology. Yep. And the long-term damage of even a little while of that, I feel like, especially in the younger developmental years, would that not be devastating in some ways?
So I can speak to that as a parent. And even the Association or the Academy of Pediatrics, they're actually looking at that. And that's one of the big reasons and the big push for having our kids back in the classroom is the long-term effects that it's going to have on them socially, mentally. Because, as school teachers and as educators just throughout the county, their goal is to grow the whole child. It's not just for them to graduate with a diploma. It's for them to leave as a well-rounded human being, and their emotional well-being is a big part of that. I think that as a parent, I know that when we went into quarantine, the first week, everybody was fine. Everybody was like, no school, this is the best ever. And not having to get up early was amazing. But then came the realization of, oh, I'm not going to get to see my friends. There was so many tears shed in my house. And we had a small circle that we let in and that we continued to do life with. And everybody was incredibly safe about it. But I knew my kids couldn't. You're not an island. Right. None of us are built to be an island. And I think that that's a huge thing. Here in Lincoln County, we have poverty that I think goes unnoticed a good bit. Everybody's home's not the same. Right. For a lot of these kids, coming to school is their safe place. It's a place where they get a hot meal. It's a place where they feel safe. They have resources there that, there's school counselors that are identifying needs. There's teachers that love them and love on them. And I think when we take that away, we're doing our kids a disservice. There's a big gap that's left there. Technology is necessary, and it can be amazing, but it doesn't fill the gap that our kids are getting in schools.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the stats you said a minute ago, because
Yes.
it basically points out what I think a lot of people already know innately, is that I think the way you put it, nothing will ever take the place of being in the classroom. And obviously the stats are quickly and, I would maybe use the word violently, clearly showing that's the case. So, and this may be a tougher question, but
Bring it on.
if something like COVID increases, gets worse, something else comes up, something shows up, and it puts that at risk. And I want to, just for the sake of, because we could talk about for an hour, stay away from the politics of coronavirus in general.
Yes.
But if something viable shows up that would put going back home on the table again, where do you weigh the balance between how viable does something have to be, or how much of, before we say, yeah, going home is the thing to do long term? Because if the stats are so abysmal and dark, and you got the social aspect, and it seems like there's far more negative, attributes to staying home versus being in school, what do you do if that shows back up? How do you go through that decision process again, knowing now, maybe we didn't know 6 months ago, we know now it doesn't work.
Right.
So that makes the whole decision-making process different to me.
Absolutely.
What would you do the next go around? Not you specifically, but us in general. Well,
so I think, one thing that we all need to realize too is some of the decisions that are being made, they're not being made on the local level. Right. A lot of the choices that were made for Lincoln County, it wasn't made here. It was made on a state level. Yeah. And I think at first there was some decisions made out of fear, because we all were afraid. I mean, it was really scary. I think that now I would like to think that people are going into it with their eyes more wide open, and that they can weigh out the whole child, and know that if we did have to go back online full time, that I know here in Lincoln County, there's a plan in place. Last March, everybody was trying to figure it out really quickly. I think now they've had some time. And they've had time to figure it out. I think that nothing's perfect. And again, you can't replace classroom instruction. But I do think that our educators are doing what they can to make sure that our kids are learning, even the days that they are at home. I would just like to think that we're going to go into it maybe weighing all the facts out, because the longer this goes on, the more information we are going to have, the more statistics we are going to have, more testing is going to be done. Education right now is hard. Yeah. I mean, it's just all the way around. It's just hard. It's hard for parents. It's hard for administrators, for staff. I think the key really is just keeping our kids at the front of all the choices, of all the decisions, and not just one part of our county, but the entire county.
Right. That's good. No, yeah, absolutely. I love that. All right. So, not to be negative, but it with that in mind, moving forward, there seems to be a lot of difficulty ahead in education with the coronavirus. And now that we see the way we respond as a nation, maybe as a state or whatever, education has become, I feel like it was out of everybody's mind in a lot of ways and in a very unhealthy way. So the positive look to a negative situation is that there's a lot of people who never remotely one time cared about education. Now they're paying attention to it. So now that you and the Lincoln County school system and that sector that had been grossly ignored, now that they have some spotlight right now and people are paying more attention, what would you want to say to those people that, the dads that just knew their kids went to school and that's it?
Right. Right.
And other people, what would you want to say, leave them with?
I would say, first off, we need to recognize how hard our educators work for our kids. I think that we are so used to pulling up in the car rider line that sometimes we complain about how long it is.
Right.
And, our thought is our next step during the day. What are we doing after we drop our kids off? I think that kudos to our teachers. And I think now is a great time for parents to step up and support our staff any way that we can, and our administrators that are making these hard choices. To parents that are realizing that there's a lot more to educating our kids than we thought, stick in there. I think that's the thing. This is such an opportunity for us to maybe dig back deeper into our kids' lives and take our voice back. How much time do we have with our kids? And how much time do we have before they turn 18 and are gone?
That's awesome.
And I think this is a big time to realize that I can connect with my kids. I can connect with their friends. I know for us, if you're in my house, you're one of mine. And I treat everybody like you're mine. And if you're not doing your schoolwork when you're in my house, we're going to talk about it. But I think it is just an opportunity for us to reconnect and to get to know our kids again. And don't be afraid of that. They're people. They have a lot to learn, but they have a lot to offer. I've learned a ton from my kids since March. So it's been an amazing opportunity.
That's
really
awesome.
has.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you've said it 2 or 3 times, and I think that it's something that is worth maybe closing this conversation on, and that is being very thankful for the teachers and the administrators and the people making the decisions and educating our kids, especially to all the parents who were forcibly had to homeschool.
Yes.
I think that, one thing, this is just the way I always say it, and it may not make sense to a lot of people, but you always criticize, like the coach of your favorite football team or something from the stands, like you actually know what you're talking about,
right.
Like you get it, like how to coach a pro
armchair
football
quarterback?
team. Yeah. And you run your mouth and you're like, I can't believe he called that call.
Right.
And and every now and then you get, it's rare in life, but every now and then you get to be able to look and see how wrong you really are about our thought processes, or how much we don't value the things that are really valuable in the people who are really valuable. And I think that one thing that we have learned and seen in a deep way is how valuable truly our teachers are, and to have a good teacher and to understand the rare calling that's on their life, the sacrifices that they make. And none of them are getting rich, at all.
Far from it.
And, and so you have all this stuff. And I think it would be a great time to just celebrate the teachers. And, now that we have a taste of what it would be like if they weren't in our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, close us down, 20 seconds, a minute, whatever you want to say, whatever you got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to be running for school board. I actually remember the day that I decided to be PTO president, what feels like 57 years ago in PTO years. So I've been doing that for 9 years now.
That's awesome.
And I've led a diverse group of people. I feel like we've had good success raising funds and just building atmospheres for our kids and our staff to thrive. I'm looking forward to what's next. For me, I feel like school board is the next step for me. I feel like I bring a unique perspective to the table. Having been a substitute teacher, I've actually subbed in the cafeteria.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And just, being a part of the school system and built relationships with our staff and administrators. And I look forward to using that. I feel like I'm relevant. I feel like, as a mom. I understand what the budget actually looks like in the classroom. And I'm willing to fight for our kiddos and our staff. So I'm looking forward to the next step.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And like I opened with, I'll close with it. There's very few people in life that actually put their money where their mouth is and invest their life, their time, energy, effort, resources in the things they believe in. And you're one of those people. And I made a commitment a long time ago. I would always support those people. And so I 100% support you.
Thank you.
I'm excited. And vote for her.
Absolutely.
It'll be good.
November 3rd.
I don't know anybody else, so I'm voting for you.
Well, thanks.
It'll be good.
I know people should know who you're voting for.
I know.
Be educated.
I know. Be educated.
Absolutely.
Well, we're educating. We're educating.
I know.
Adding value and educating right now.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks.
And we love you and hope that you gained a little bit from this. If you have any more questions, or if there was a question you wanted us to ask that we didn't ask, or something you felt like you want us to talk about, comment it or message it to us, and we might just do a round 2.
I would love that.
That'd be fun.
Yay.
All right. Love you guys.